Good morning. This is Gilgamesh. I want to talk about something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. It is about J Simpson and his murder trial. That should never have happened. Well, let's go back in time. There's a couple reasons why OJ was acquitted. Two big ones. They have to do with Mark Fuhrman and the evidence. When this crime happened, OJ, according to, had left town. He stopped first to get food for Cato Caitlin, who was a guest staying in his guest house. Didn't pay rent or anything. Was staying there rent free because he was friends with OJ. And so OJ takes him in his rental car. In the car service. Goes to McDonald's, gets him food, brings him back, drops him off, then heads off to the airport to head to Chicago. So, when the police get this call about the murders at Nicole's home, Mark Fuhrman and his partner show up, and they immediately, they didn't even wait for a warrant, without any wait, and the crime scene was fresh. They rushed OJ's home, and they, without a warrant, go into his, and understand that Cato Caitlin is not O.J. Simpson. He does not, as a guest, does not have the same permission. He can't give permission to allow the police on the property. Only the homeowner. That's like if O.J.'s wife, if they were living together, because she is also the homeowner, can give permission. But as far as I understand, a guest cannot give permission to allow the police on the premise. And they went in without a warrant into his closet. They took gloves. They took a pair of his shoes. I don't know what else they took. And put it in their vehicle. And so, and the high, which was not a high-speed chase, by the way, was a escort to his mom's home because he wanted to let her know that she'd have to take care of his kids. He told the police this, and he would allow them to arrest him once he got there, and he told his mom what was going on. So they arrest him, they take him in. The media is over at the crime scene. This plays a crucial part to the trial coming up. Okay, in case you don't understand this, whatever evidence the prosecution is going to bring to trial, they have to hand that over to the defense. So the defense can bring up, and the defense has to do the same thing. If anything they find while they're, and they have to know who's going to testify. They have a right to, go and if they find something, like in this case a recording that Mark Fuhrman made, they have to hand that over to the prosecution so that they know what the defense is going to bring up. So this way you can prevent them from using that by not bringing in a certain. I'll get to what the recording was. Most people know what it was. Now know. But at the time, this was something, that will play a part in Mark Fuhrman. And then the evidence. Like I said, the media was there every day recording, for the news and everything, recording what was going on at the crime scene. And, of course, Mark Fuhrman does this whole thing where he's walking through, saying where he found the glove and all this stuff. But during the trial, like I said, this recording would come into play. Mark Fuhrman takes the stand. Marsha Clark, I think it was her, is doing direct and asks him this question. Which, remember, there's a recording. Why she asked him this question makes no sense. She says, "Have you ever said the N-word?" He says no. I think she asked him again, "Are you, so you've never said it?" And he said no. When she was done, sat down. This is where the defense came in. This is why I said a recording. They asked Mark Fuhrman, "Are you sure you never said the N-word? At any point in your life you've ever said the N-word?" And he said no. They said, "Your Honor," and they played the recording for the entire courtroom. On this recording, you hear Mark Fuhrman say the N-word. Not only did it prove that he's a liar, his credibility shot, anything he said, anything that came out of what he said would be tossed out. Yeah, his credibility is shit. And then he tries to downplay it later by saying, "Oh, it was I was saying on rebuttal. I think it was Marsha Clark or Christopher, whatever his name was, her asked him to rebuttal. I think it was about the recording. He said, "Oh, it was for a TV show. Doesn't matter. That's not what the point of this was. It was you lied and said you never said the N-word, which, by the way, is considered perjury, which he was never prosecuted for." Now, we get to, and this whole court case was a joke. And, of course, Kalen testifies, and he admits that the police told him, what they said to get on the premises, and they knew he was a guest. So they didn't have a warrant, which anybody should know, never let police on your property without a warrant. So then we get to the evidence. The guy in charge, I don't know his name. He was an Asian older man. He was testifying to their evidence that the police collected. I laugh. This is what's so funny. I said there was, the media will play a part in this in this trial. They do. They play a big part, and it has to do with the evidence. He testifies to all the evidence, the blood in the Bronco, all this stuff. And when they're done, they sit down, and then comes the cross-examination. And during this, they said, media recording of them reporting out the crime scene. And during this, they stop it and they ask, "Is this how you normally collect evidence? What are they doing with this evidence?" And they said, "It looks like is this normal that they put it in their vehicles and take it home?" And he said, "No." So why were they doing it? Why were they breaking protocol and putting the evidence in their own private vehicles and taking it home? And he had no answer. And they asked, did they contain the crime scene? He said, no, people were just walking in and out. So you didn't contain the crime scene. People were you sloppily handled the evidence. And then the ultimate thing was, is it possible, this was asked, is it possible that you guys transferred the blood from the crime scene to the Bronco? And he admitted it was possible. So the defense ruins all the evidence. Does not exist anymore, because it's been thoroughly trashed by the defense and him admitting that they rushed this case. They didn't even look at anyone else. They immediately said OJ had to do this, and they did everything to put him in prison. For all the people from Chris Rock to Larry Elder, and Larry Elder lovingly says, "Oh, Marsha Clark's a smart woman." Really? I don't know what trial you watched, but she got embarrassed. She was embarrassed when Mark Furman admitted on, and this woman had the same recording and asked that question about him saying the N-word, and her look on her face was she wanted to go and hide. And then when they wrecked the evidence, she knew that this case was over. She's never recovered from this. Neither did Christopher, what's his name, the guy who was her, co-counsel. They were wrecked. And then Johnny Cochran, I love what he did. And, people said, well, OJ stopped taking his blood pressure medication, and that's why the gloves didn't fit. That's not how blood pressure medication works, idiot. I take blood pressure medication. It doesn't make your hands swell. See? Your hands don't swell. And I'm just going to let you know, I haven't been taking my blood pressure, and my fingers haven't swelled up. I also have rheumatoid arthritis. I might also have arthritis because, But blood pressure medication, not taking it, doesn't make your fucking fingers get fatty, not with gloves, not fit. So he said, if the gloves don't fit, you must have quit. And I'm going to point something out about the jurors. They were split going into this trial. They were. They asked how many people believe OJ did it. Half of them said he was guilty. The other half said he was innocent. So this was a split jury. And so So the prosecution's evidence is absolutely destroyed. Sloppy police were rushed to judgment. They didn't even bother looking at anybody else this woman happened to be dating, sleeping with, Oh, and of course, I'll get to the wrongful death lawsuit that was filed before he was even, it may have been right after he was charged. These two idiot families didn't even wait for the trial to be over to sue him for wrongful death. And yeah, and Nicole's sister takes in and she shows a photo. She doesn't add anything to this. All she shows is that, OJ might have. I saw the photo. It kind of looked doctored. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it looked like someone in Hollywood did makeup on her to make it look like. I heard the recording of the banging at the door and everything. But here's the thing. Whether he beat her or not is not the same thing as killing her. Understand that. He may be the guy who beat his wife and never got charged, but he never did. So our legal system says you are innocent until proven guilty. It's not like Russia's system where it's you're guilty till you prove your innocence. It's you're innocent until proven guilty. So, and this goes to a lot of people, like Michael Jackson. Yes, I bring Michael Jackson to this because he was acquitted of raping kids a month early. Then we have, Kyle Rittenhouse. You can't have it. I'm tired, people. You can't have it every which way you want. If Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted of double murder, as he was, and OJ was acquitted of double murder, and Michael Jackson was proven he didn't rape kids, you can't then say OJ's guilty. He's guilty. He's guilty. No, he's not. He's not. Because you can't apply this to Kyle Rittenhouse then. Then he's guilty. Because he did actually kill two people. It was self-defense, but it was still, he murdered two people. It was self-defense, but that's still murder. And he has to live with, and he does live with the consequences of killing two people. Because that is actually, no matter how you call it self-defense, it's still considered murder. He was acquitted because the prosecution, once, like OJ, rushed to try to put him in prison, get an easy conviction, and it fell apart. Just like OJ's trial, which was televised, just like Kyle Rittenhouse, there's the similarities. Now we can, I can bring up Bill Cosby because he never got a fair trial. He's kind of like Derek Chauvin, and I've talked about both these. These two men, ironically, were put in prison for a crime they did, for crimes they, in Derek Chauvin, for murder, he didn't commit. And then for Bill Cosby, for rape, he never committed. Yeah. So, we don't have a fair system. OJ did not do what he was accused of. If you believe this whole idea that if acquitted, he's innocent, I know Norm Macdonald made jokes about it and everything, and that's him. But the fact is, if acquitted, that means he didn't do it. But then OJ was guilty of one thing. It was what he did in Vegas. It wasn't going after his stolen property where he should have called the police and had them go with him to retrieve his property. It was the fact, and it wasn't the fact that he brought armed people with him. What he was guilty of was kidnapping. Because when these very people with guns that he brought, he forcefully kept, when he got his step back, instead of letting these people go, he held them against their will and wouldn't let them go at gunpoint. So he was arrested, and I remember the media, when he was sitting in jail, they were literally saying, are they going to try to retry him for the double murders? No, they can't. First of all, they can't try him in Vegas for a crime he was acquitted of, because it didn't take place in Vegas, it took place in California. And two, he was acquitted, which means you can't retry him for a crime he was acquitted of. It's just like Kyle Rittenhouse. You can't prosecute him for, murder when he was acquitted of murder. It's just like Michael Jackson. You can't publicly try him when he was found innocent. And the Bill Cosby thing should never have happened. And so we get to, the end of the trial, after the whole, if the gloves don't fit, you must acquit, which was hilarious. what happened? The jurors unanimously came back with not guilty. If you look at OJ's face, you know why he had a relief? Because here's the thing: knowing the corrupt LA court, the whole system, his lawyers know that they proved that he was innocent, but they were also preparing him just in case they came back and said he did it. That's why his face, the relief on his face, and he sighs of relief because he was prepared, knowing how corrupt the system was, that he thought he was actually going to go to prison for a crime he was obviously innocent of. Yeah. Oh, and then there's the wrongful death. I said that this is how laughable this wrongful death lawsuit was. They didn't present any evidence. The whole thing was, did they present any evidence that proved a preponderance? This is what the jurors said. They say a preponderance of the evidence proves that OJ was responsible for the murders. The problem was that wasn't what was presented in the wrongful death suit by these families. Nicole's sister gets on the stand, cries about the supposed beating that Nicole took, cries like a stupid bitch, and they didn't show any evidence that proved any of it. It was all about Ron Goldman's father said, I think he did it. And that's all he said. So it was based on no actual evidence presented, no preponderance of anything. They didn't show any evidence. Just like the evidence in the trial, his double murder trial was proven to be garbage. This lawsuit, they showed nothing. They literally had no evidence to present. Just he might have beat Nicole's sister, and she cried like a bitch on the stand. I can't stand that fucking cunt and her family. And then, all he said was, I believe he did it. When asked, do you have any proof? Do you have any evidence that proves that what makes you believe he did it? No. That's exactly what was said. Cross-examination, Nicole Brown's sister and Ron Goldman's father both said they have no actual evidence to prove OJ did it, but yet he's found the preponderance of the evidence was nothing. And yet they still said he most likely did it. That's how laughable this type of lawsuit was. They never presented any actual evidence that could prove OJ did it. They never even went there. They literally, my sister was assaulted, and I believe he did it. And so there's the preponderance, and they couldn't prove it. His father even admitted, I don't have any evidence to prove he did it. I just believe he did it. That's the preponderance of the evidence against OJ that proved he did it. Yay! Wrongful. These fucking lawsuits are a joke. Oh yes, they are. Oh, and just, I'll bring in the Michael Jackson thing once again. The only reason Michael paid out the lawsuit was, and he put a video, and I still remember this because it was put on the news, that the police showed up to his home and took photos of his naked body. His penis, his buttocks, and everything. And he's a self-conscious man that he was ready to go to court over this to prove his innocence. And here's what he didn't know was when Jordan Chandler described Michael's penis, he said it was he said it was a circumcised penis. Problem was, in the photo, it was uncircumcised. That's why Katherine Jackson did not mutilate her son's dicks by cutting off their foreskin. So when they saw this, they knew they had a liar. This is why they basically were never going to go forward, but they didn't bother telling Michael that they were going to drop any chance of trying him. So when he thought they were going to use this at the trial, because they knew they weren't, they didn't bother to tell his legal team, oh, by the way, we're not going to be using those photos, or he would have proceeded with trial and proven his innocence. He settled because he thought they were going to use these photos of his during his trial, and he was not wanting people to see what his dick looks like. Okay, people, he was self-conscious that people would see his big, giant dick and go, oh my God, it's a huge black cock. But yeah, that's essentially why he settled the whole thing, and he knew it would bite him in the ass. So all the people that think he did it, that's why he settled. You know, like I said, Razor put that in there. But this whole OJ thing, then he does something that I think was trolling on two fronts. And I can't believe people were this stupid to believe he wasn't trolling the media and all the idiots who thought he did it. He's at a golf course, and the media's there and asking questions, and he literally says this: I'm going to spend the rest of my days looking for the real killers. If you didn't think that was trolling, something's wrong with you. And then the biggest troll of all happened to be his fictitious book that he wrote. Oh, and if this and I heard people say, oh, he wrote saying that he proves in his book, What If I Did It, that how he committed the murders. It's a work of fiction, people. If he's guilty of murder, then you go arrest Stephen King and lock him up for murder because he's written books about murders too. Dean Koontz and other authors who write crime novels and everything. You better put them in prison. It was a fictitious story. He wrote What If I Did It was him saying, oh, okay. And I took it as him trolling the media, which is exactly the way it should have been, because it was way too stupid and funny that people believed he was admitting to murder. No, he wasn't. But, see, this is what happens when people don't bother to look at facts and they go, my feelings, and fuck you, Chris Rock, on all levels. I will get to Chris Rock, that his stand-up special he did for Netflix. I'm going to be talking about that in my next video. But yeah, I wanted to do this and show you why OJ was acquitted of double murder, and the fact that I didn't watch the FX series and that series they did about the OJ trial. Anybody paying attention realized there's no way he was going to be found guilty. The evidence wasn't there. The evidence itself was tainted. This is why, And when people and I get Norm Macdonald making jokes about OJ being a killer, but here's the thing: logically, anybody using their brain knows that when you throw out the physical evidence, which was contaminated, you throw out Mark Furman's the fact that he lied on the stand. What did the prosecution have as a case? They had nothing. The physical evidence was crap because it was contaminated by the way it was like I said. And Mark Furman, being a liar, throws out everything he said in that recording walkthrough of the crime scene. He's a liar. Mark Furman could never be trusted to ever tell the goddamn truth. And people need to realize this. Yeah. There are guilty people in the world, but there are also innocent people. And when the courts are when the system tries that hard and that shitty to try to put someone in prison, maybe it's because they know they're trying to frame them for a crime they know they didn't commit. Ask this question: why did they not look elsewhere, look at anyone else she was dating at the time? Because you really think she was just sleeping with Ron Goldman? No, she was sleeping with a lot of people, So, yeah. And boo-hoo, your sister's gone. Well, maybe if you bothered to find the real killer, you would know who did it. Instead of focusing on OJ, like every idiot who said he did it, you didn't bother to follow the trial because there's no way he did it. And I'll debate anybody on this. I put in there why he was acquitted, which is what's so funny is there are idiots who will still say he did it. How did he do it when the evidence wasn't there? When you throw out the physical evidence and you throw out Mark Furman, what do you have? You have no case. So why did this go to trial? Because Marsha Clark is an idiot who thought she had a slam dunk case and didn't bother to make sure her case was solid to begin with before rushing in and screwing herself right in the ass. Because if you have a chance to look at the footage of when they get Mark Furman to lie on the stand, look at her reaction, and then look at when they destroy the evidence, she looked like she wanted to go and hide. Marsha Clark's career never recovered after that. She literally had to quit being a lawyer because she was such an embarrassment and embarrassed the city of LA for the way she prosecuted this trial that she literally retired and went to become an analyst or something. I forget what news outlet. But yeah, I just wanted to do this video to talk about this because, like I said, I could go in, I went by the trial evidence, and the trial evidence proves OJ didn't do it. So, yeah. Evidence. We live in a country where you're considered innocent until proven guilty. Russia is the country that has you're guilty until you're innocent. You have to prove your innocence. In both cases, OJ didn't do it, based on the fact that the prosecution had no case to begin with. Yeah. And how do you not verify that, first of all, that Mark Furman never said, when you have the recording, why would you ask him that? Marcia Clark, I'd like to get that answer. And two, why the fuck did you put that guy on the stand to testify about the shitty way the evidence? It was shit. Your case was shit, and you wrecked your career. And OJ is, thank God he's a free man, because look at what they did to Derek Chauvin, what they did to McMichaels, what they tried to do to Kyle Rittenhouse, what they did to R. Kelly. Yes, R. Kelly. And they almost did that to OJ. So, yeah. I'm glad OJ's a free man. I'm glad he will beat the corrupt system. Because if they can do this to people who, like Bill Cosby, that are innocent, Derek Chauvin, R. Kelly, I'll go into R. Kelly. Why? Yeah. Because I remember the trial. He didn't do anything they accused him of. But that's for another time. I just wanted to bring this up about the OJ thing. I could go into further about it, but like I said, anybody want to debate me on the substance of the case, then go ahead. But I'm going by what was presented during the trial, and there was no case here, and he should never have lost the wrongful death lawsuit. So this is Gilgamesh. You can follow me on my Rumble channel under Panzer Dragon. You can follow me over on Odyssey under Gilgamesh and on BitChute under Gilgamesh1. Yeah, I take my time making videos because I get exhausted really easy because of my health. My emphysema makes me really winded and tired. So that's why I haven't been doing a bunch of videos all the time. So I just wanted to put that there. Yeah, if you want to, you can subscribe to my channel. If I can get 100 subscribers, I only have 18 right now. I can live stream on Rumble, but that's up to if people want to have me do that. I have no problem doing it. But yeah, I will talk to you later. Bye.